Let's do it.
Go.
Your brother, faced with hard luck. Faced with hard luck. Card shots, thieves, murderers with hard luck. Pimps and card shots, thieves, murderers with hard luck. Your brother, faced with hard luck. Faced with hard luck. Card shots, thieves, murderers with hard luck. Pimps and card shots, thieves, murderers with hard luck.
Good morning. Welcome to the Hard Luck Show. I'm your certified host, Steve Lucky Luciano. Got my man, the Indian, in here with me. You know.
Chumahan, elegant barbarian, American Indian, Southern California.
Yes. And handling audio and visual.
You know, Sean Lewis.
Oh, Blue Eyes.
Oh, Blue Eyes.
Oh, Brown ATM.
Oh, brown eye.
Next level ATM. Hey, yeah, we got OG Snoop in the house.
Yeah.
What up, Christian?
What up? Come on.
What's up, guys? What's up?
Yeah, handling
All right,
visuals.
all right.
Got over over.
Almost.
Yeah.
Almost. But,
Don't get too excited.
yeah, don't spill it.
Today
Yes.
on the show,
Yes.
we got an old friend of mine.
Come on now.
Dude, part of the West Side, Four Corner, West Side culture. I want to introduce and bring on, let's give a round of applause to my boy, Jack OG Creeper from Venice on to the show. What's up?
Yeah, creeper.
What's
Come on.
up?
Come on.
Jack. Big Creeps, what's up, man? Talking to that mic.
up, big dog?
Don't be afraid.
Yeah. Get
there
up
you
on
go.
the tip
There
of
you
that
go.
thing.
Yeah, hey, easy there.
Easy,
no,
straight
no,
out the
that.
shower. All right.
Trying to win off of that one.
What's up, brother?
What's up, brother? How are
Welcome to the show,
you?
man.
Yeah, man.
Guy came in bearing gifts.
I'm telling you guys, if you can see this right here,
The camera? Is that
This
Yeah,
is-
there's a camera. Yeah.
We're going to get that out of the way.
We get that.
the Juice LA, all right? That's what we got. That's what we're drinking here.
Real.
The
Two
Juice LA.
locations.
Where are they?
Two locations. The main one is in Atwater Village.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one is in the Grand Central Market, right next to Egg Slut.
Nice.
At the Juice LA on Instagram.
Oh, Blue Eyes has been all over Grand Central Market.
Yeah.
And they're our sponsor tonight.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's Creeper's wife.
Yes, sir.
She's
That's
running that thing, man. He brought us in these gifts
Her
tonight.
girlfriend's she has a business partner.
Mm-hmm.
Lizzo.
Organic.
Lizzo, give Lizzo and my wife Melissa a shout out.
Shout out,
out.
you guys.
Shout
Thank you
out.
for the wonderful juices.
They name them after numbers. I got the number 10. Orange, grapefruit, lemon, lime. And let me tell you something. Shit's organic. And you know why? It's organic, and they tell you. All the other shit that's out there, all that other bullshit juice, it's not organic.
It's funny because lately, the last few years, we've been trading. I've always looked out. Look, I've known this gentleman for a long time.
Yeah.
But I've always, somehow, whenever I have brands, man, you know, I always do my best to try and look out for this fool, man. Always getting beer. And he's always looked out for me, too.
Right.
Seems like the last few years, I'm either showing up with some shirts or some shit for you, or you're showing up with some juices.
One time I was working.
That's for you, by the way. Look
yeah.
at that. Look at that bag we're giving them right
Cookies.
there. See that?
I was working. I do pressure washing, and I was working cleaning some sidewalks. This fool rolls up on me in this Jaguar. Yeah, the Jaguar.
Yeah.
Pops his trunk. He's just like doing the reckless,
Young and reckless,
and pulls up, and I think he gave me like 4 of every color.
Yeah, broke them off.
That's awesome.
I have like 2 of them left.
Yeah, man.
Right, now you guys, you know how I know you guys are OGs? Because you guys are exchanging. You're on the barter system.
It's not even a barter system, really. It's just fucking hooking a homie up. You know?
Yeah.
Organic
We
juice
wear
for
the same
t-shirts.
shoes. He would wear shoes for like 2 times, and then he'd be like, because he'd get kicked him or whatever, he would be like, yo, help me here.
Yeah.
I got some shoes for you.
Yeah.
I got
Creeper
whatever,
came
you
in
know
wearing
what
Supermax.
Hey.
Sporting
Yeah,
Supermax.
Damn straight, man. He's from the West
I mean?
Side.
Got to.
I remember when I was, going through different, trying to make some things work. When we were starting up some of the podcasts, I worked a couple of nights with Jack. Remember when I hit you and I told you I was doing some fucking power cleaning?
Yeah,
remember
you did.
that?
I do remember that.
Yeah.
Yep. I was helping out with Jack, man. He was helping me. I was helping him.
Yep.
Because that's what we do.
That's it.
But,
How did you guys meet?
man, we met. He fucking...
I met him, well, his wife or his ex-wife,
Jessica.
Jessica's, she's my homegirl. And I met him right after I got out. I went to the joint in '92 for being stupid. And when I got out, they had already been together, but I think he had just coming out of his term. had a son,
Right.
and he was doing the Supermax and the Famous Stars and Straps, and running around with one of my other homeboys, Paulie B.
Yep.
Rest in peace.
Yep.
And we just hit it off, man. He was getting sober, kind of in and out of getting sober at that time, and I've been clean and sober for 30, almost 36 years.
So let's just cut the shit, because let me tell you something, Creeper. We got dudes on the show that get a little bit of time. They go out. They might be younger. They might be older than you.
Yeah.
From your perch,
I'm not on a perch.
well, a seat.
From my seat, yes.
Okay, whatever.
From my
I'm
seat.
not trying to put you up there.
I know. I feel you.
Okay. I want to know, what do you feel or think it takes, at least for you, to collect 36 years of sobriety, my home dog?
Well, I mean, I've been blessed. Like, I spoke the other day on a podcast, or not a podcast, but a Zoom meeting. And I've been blessed to not have ever had to relapse. I don't know how I did it. The only thing that I learned, I made a decision early on that no matter what, there's no reason for me to drink and use.
Right.
I don't honestly, there's no real answer to that, because everybody's different and everybody has their demons. And I think, and one of the things that keeps me clean and sober today is, I've seen people like Steve that are my friends that, I have, huge respect and love for out there doing it dirty, and, one of the last times I seen Steve, I might get emotional here. Sorry about that. When he was loaded was he was in the DMV, and I was there with him, and I seen him, and he didn't see me, and he was on a sick one, and and I had known him at that time probably for over 20 years, and I was so heartbroken that I couldn't even approach him. I couldn't even say hi to him, and. Luckily, right after that, he went up north to San Francisco and was able to, get a hold of his demons and his, and speak his truth and figure out what it was that he needed to do to capture this gift, because that's what it is to me. Is it's just a gift from God, whatever you believe God is. I don't have any vision or belief of any specific God, but I mean, I'm raised religious, but don't feel it, and. It's tough, man. For me today, there's no situation that I would ever come against where I would have to that I would soberly and consciously choose to take a drink or a drug.
Steve, what was the trip up north? Like, why at that point did it take a trip up north?
Oh, I had lost everything, and there was nowhere else for me to go but to the streets when I went up north. Man. My mom looked at me and she's like, "They're gonna evict me. You gotta go." And I had nowhere to go. And I think it was maybe about 6 months before that, I was trying to fucking do some old bullshit in the DMV. I don't even know. I might have convinced my mom that I'm gonna go get her fucking registration. I don't know what the fuck I was doing, but I was on one when he was talking about it. But yeah, man, and I had to go away for a while, and that's what he's talking about, and that was a little over 5 years ago,
right?
And I've talked about it before, but what's so interesting, listen, through this whole process of me early on in sobriety, Jack Creeps had time. He came out of prison with time,
right?
And he's on the west side.
I went into prison sober,
and we're gonna go there right now. Yeah. But I've always he's part of the West Side culture. I mean, you can't really be with Jack and he can't stand somewhere on Lincoln or fucking Washington or somewhere on the West Side, and then somebody's not gonna honk a horn and not know this guy. People know him, and in the community of recovery, every meeting I'd go to, he'd be there. And he'd have commitments or whatever. So I remember many times when I was doing well, I'd call Creeper, meet him in a meeting. When I wasn't doing well, I'd call him. Or he'd call me, "Hey, what's going on, man? What's really going on, You want to go to a meeting or invite me to a meeting? And so I would call him for help, advice. He'd meet me even if I was loaded. And just sit down and just fucking have a cup of coffee with him or whatever, man. Just like, all right, dude, you all right? You know? So he's always been there. He's somebody I look to for solution. But, you know, prior to that, man, this guy's part of like a whole West Side culture that started in like, you know, this particular culture that I'm talking about was like there was a lot going on. It's the melting pot of the West Side. There was punk rock, there was homies, there was skateboarding, there was surfing, there was all this culture, and suicidal tendencies in this music and movement were really coming to a forefront. And there was a handful of people that really started this real following. And Creeper was one of those dudes, and he was a knucklehead, man. And he was, you know.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because when Suicidal first came out, I was young. I mean, those guys are like 5 or 6 years older than me. So when I was like 13, you know, they were like 16, 17, 18, you know. And, you know, I looked up to all those dudes. And, you know, from age 12 until I went to prison, or actually like 5 years before I went to prison, I got off of probation and parole. But, you know, juvenile hall, county camps, youth authority, and just being a knucklehead. But at the same time, like I can't remember a time being out more than 6 months, you know, through that time. And to make sure my phone is off so it doesn't fucking buzz. And, you know, during those times, you know, I'm in juvenile hall and county camps and youth authority, and, you know, guys are hitting me, you know, where are you from out there? You know, where are you from? You know, and I'm like, well, I'm from Venice. You know, Venice what? You know, because you couldn't just say Venice 13 because I wasn't. You know what I mean?
Right.
And even though we claimed, you know, V13 punks, you know what I mean? We did that, but it wasn't a part of the whole V13 scene. And so I was like, I'm from Venice Suicidals. You know what I mean? And I represented that in the institutions. You know, that's part of my demons and part of my trauma, you know, because we all have trauma.
For the uninitiated, what did that mean when you said Venice Suicidals?
Well, I mean, we were a group. We were just a tight-knit group of homies that grew up in Venice. You know, it wasn't, at the time when it first came out, it wasn't really anything organized. It wasn't really a gang, you know what I mean? But it morphed itself into that. It morphed itself into that. And, you know, we'd roll up to shows and it'd be like, you know, we wouldn't go to shows without having fucking 30 of our homies there, you know?
Right.
And so we'd roll up to a show where there'd be like, you know, 10 or 12 fucking whatever, skinheads or whatever. And we roll up, we'd be deep, and we all knew that we were down because we had to go back to the neighborhood together. So it's like if something jumped off, we were fighting, and people would just be up, suicidals in the house, you know, suicidal boys are here, you know, and we just got labeled that, and then it just morphed into this huge fucking movement. And my point is, like, when I was in, like, I wasn't on the streets a lot, so my involvement was more of just representing, you know, in prison, in jails, you know.
Right.
And then when I got out and I got sober in youth authority at 18. It's set 18. So I paroled from youth authority after doing, you know, from 12 to 18, 19 years old in juvenile halls and camps and stuff. And I was free, and I didn't want to go back. And I told myself I didn't want to go back, and that was part of my sobriety. I was like, I'm going to stay sober until I'm 21, and then I'm going to drink like a man. That was my initial.
Sounds like a plan.
Right. And then, so by the time I was 21, though, I was, you know, I had done everything I'd ever drank and used drugs to do, because I drank and used drugs because I didn't feel a part of. I didn't feel good enough, or whatever the case may be. And I had done sober many times over. Punk rock shows, fights, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And going to those, in that 5 years, you know, going to those shows and stuff, like I kind of had this feeling that I had to kind of prove myself to my homies, because I wasn't really around on the streets during the craziness. I was in there. I was representing in there. I was getting in fights with fucking skinheads and La Mirada punks and, you know, Orange County, you know, all the dudes from Orange County and stuff, that, you know, Peni and all those guys, you know, and But on the streets, nobody knew that, you know. So I kind of had this, almost like I felt like I needed to, you know,
show.
I needed to show. I needed to handle my business, and shit would jump off, and I'd be that guy,
first one.
I'd be the first swing,
Yeah.
and 99% of the times I'd just drop somebody and it'd be
Yeah, he was a big. He's big, but when you saw him when he came out, dog, he was on swole too.
you know what I mean? And so I was I'd fight at the drop of a hat, and that created a thing for me where I was honestly afraid of going back to prison because I was like, I'm going to get busted for something. I remember one time I'm in front of the whiskey and I got into it with these two guys and I literally dropped them both, and I turned around, I look across the street, and there's fucking West Hollywood sheriffs are right there, and they didn't see it, but I was just like, I'm going to go back to fucking prison,
But you were doing this sober.
100%.
So for you, I mean, what's the experience doing it sober? Because a lot of people can get into trouble when they're loaded.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people get liquid courage.
Well, I mean, my thing was like, I grew up with a lot of, just my own trauma and stuff. And I've come to find out that a lot of what I went through created a situation in myself where I felt I needed to be in control in any situation. And as a result of that, if I felt like something was going to get out of control or something was going to jump off, I made sure I was the one that fucking handled that was in control of it, or at least fucking tried to control it by either hitting first and knocking them, doing whatever, you know what I mean, and doing my deal. And and then it pours over into life itself, just trying to control all the situations, whether it be with my son or my stepkids or my wife. It's like that's the stuff that I'm dealing with now, is trying not to be that guy. You know what I mean? I don't have to be that guy,
Are you somebody that is able to take the emotional or whatever, like the sense and the energy of a room? Like when you walk in, you can see where the tension's at?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Well, I look to see what's going on. I anytime I enter a room, outside of like a situation like this,
Christian's about to scrap. Christian's about to blow his top.
He's in my peripheral. But anytime I enter a room, even still to this day, I'll go to dinner with my wife, and my back's against the wall, and I know where the door is, and I'm watching everything. Especially in today's day and age, not just because of where I came from, but today's day and age, it's like you just don't know who's going to.
You got to be your head on a swivel.
Head on a swivel, and know what weapon you're going to use to defend yourself if you have to do that. You know what I mean? Whether it's going to be a sugar shaker or whatever. You know what I mean? See,
most people that get sober, right? They don't go and do a stint.
True.
So how did it happen?
You got to talk about that on here. It's part of the show.
Yeah. Well, I got out of I got a youth authority. Started doing the deal, going to punk rock shows, hanging out with all the homies again, and going to a lot of meetings. A lot of my homies were sober, and a lot of them were still in the game. They were still in the game, slinging dope and doing their deal. And we, a couple of my homies hit me up, and we're from the Four Corners, so there was like guys that I hung out with were like, Santa Monica, Suicidals, dudes from Venice, guys from West LA. There was another crew from West LA called West Side Crazies, which were, some legitimate cool, good guys. And we were all they were all kind of running and gelling together. And, one of my homies, Thumper, rest in peace. He calls me up and he's like, we gotta lick, we're gonna go do this robbery. These fools, they owe us some money. We're gonna go jack them and take the shit. Do you want to come with us? I'm like, fuck yeah. And by that time I was young. I was like probably 21, 22. I wasn't willing to work. I was like, just, wanted the easier, softer way. And even though I was sober and
cutting corners.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so, I got introduced to this, and, we did a couple of moves and fast, easy money. And it lasted probably for about 9 months. And, we did a move on this dude, and we got him. We got away with the shit. He wasn't home. His wife was home. And then about 6 months later, we decided we were going to do it again, and we wanted to get him when he was home. And so we went back, and we basically waited for him to get home from lunch, or at lunch, and when he got home, we were expecting him to be solo, and we went through the door, and he went to his bedroom, and apparently his daughter was in the house. His 15, 16-year-old daughter was in the house, and I walked right past her, went through the bedroom, and we basically robbed this guy, and you know, it went bad. You know, the dude I went in with wound up cut. When I was in the bedroom and my partner was in the room in the living room with the daughter. I found out later that his son was there also that I didn't see, and the wife had came home while we were in there. She had deadbolted the door. When we left, the door was deadbolted, and they had a big glass window, and my partner broke the window. And when he went out, he put his hands on the window and cut the fuck out of himself. And luckily, I guess I was so tall that I was able to just step right over it. Got away, burned the car in Culver City. Had my couple of my little homies burn the car, and 2 weeks later, I get a phone call, or actually, 2 weeks later, police basically show up at my door, and basically what happened was the guy we had robbed knew a couple of people from the neighborhood, and he found that they had found the car in Culver City. Put the word out, said, "Hey, I got jacked. You know, I want to know who did it." And one of the guys that that burned the car. He wasn't involved with it, but he burned the car with one of my other little partners. Gave me up to the dude that we robbed, and the dude we robbed gave me up to the cops.
Man.
And so they arrested me for suspicion of armed robbery and some bullshit traffic warrants. That's how they got through my door. And I'm sitting in the jail, and it was in Torrance Police Department.
Hang court.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Torrance is a hang court.
and so, I always told myself that, if I'm going to do the time, I'm going to do the crime, I got to be willing to do the crime,
Ain't gonna
or do
cry
the
about
time,
it.
and so I told myself that. And when they came at me, I was, they had like 6 different counts. They had me on first-degree armed robbery, 2 counts of assault with a firearm, because when we were leaving, I fired twice over their heads. And just try and scare them, but still,
Right.
nevertheless. And 2 counts of assault with a firearm, 1 count of shooting from a moving vehicle, a false imprisonment, just.
Right.
And I was looking at like 16. They were looking at, and that was the minimum if I would have got everything. And I wasn't going to get the minimum, and I wasn't going to get everything.
Right.
So they came at me with the deal for 11, and I was like, and this is in 92, mind you. So 3 Strikes wasn't out yet. And I was like, if I go now and I get to the joint quick enough, I'll start my halftime hopefully, and and not do so much. And I did that. I took a deal for 11. By the time I got sentenced on May 11th, and I was in state like within 15 days. I was in state, and they sentenced me to 11. I wound up doing 5 years and 9 months on an 11-year sentence.
Sober.
Sober.
How do you do? How does sobriety work in prison? How does that work?
Well, I mean, just like it does on the streets, because you can get it just as easily in there. I mean, I had a cellie at one point that was bringing 9 grams of heroin in a week.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so, I mean, I could have got
He was hitting
hard. You know what I mean? Like God. And I mean, like in our cell was like, I mean, I needed for nothing. You know what I mean? We had 2 TVs, 2 radios, Walkman. It's like we were. I had everything in there. And if I wanted to get loaded, if I wanted to get loaded, I could have got loaded, and I didn't. And I actually. I actually equate the fact that I was able to, on an 11-year sentence, only do 5 years and 9 months.
Right.
Now, if you do the calculation from the day that I got arrested, mind you. So from the day that I got arrested, I did 5 years and 9 months. And, I think that was huge. The reason that was because I was sober, and the guys knew that I was sober. I proclaim that to everybody. Like, dudes would roll up and be like, "You want to smoke?" And I'm good. I don't fuck around. You want some Pruno? I don't fuck around. I'm sober. Right. And so it got, by the time it got to the point where everybody knew me, even when shit kicked off on the yard, if you owed homeboy money and you were one of our homies, you know what I mean? It's like they didn't expect me to get involved in it because I wasn't benefiting from your drug sales. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so. They would tell. I've literally had dudes tell me multiple times, "Hey, some shit's going to happen on the yard. Stay in the building." Because they knew that it wasn't something that I was involved in.
Right, and you didn't go back.
And it
forth.
wasn't a racial thing. It was just a drug thing. You know what I mean? So they were like, you know what I mean? If it was if it was a racial thing or whatever, and it needed to get handled, and it needed people out there, then that was a different story. But
Did they have? I'm assuming that. How do I say this? I'm assuming that there was, some sort of a 12-step program involved.
they did. They had AA was coming in. AA and Narcotics Anonymous. They come in on panels. And, not every institution has it, but they have panels that come in once a month.
For you when you were doing your 5?
Yeah, when I was in, they had them. They've had them for years. There was a couple of places that I was at that had them. One place in particular that didn't, because it was just a new institution and it just hadn't been developed yet. But in Tehachapi they had them, and in Jamestown where I paroled from, they had them. But I did 14 months in Centinela before, when I got there, it was 4 months old. And so there was no programs there yet. Not a lot of shit going on.
Is the time longer when you got a clear head?
No, it's the same. You just need to keep busy. You know what I mean? It's all about having some sort of a schedule, so to speak. We called it a program. You know what I mean? Programming. If you have a schedule of what you're going to do every day, then it just goes by like clockwork. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
And so, you wake up in the morning, you go to chow, you go to work, you go to vocation, whatever it is, you come out, you go to the weight pile, you know what I mean? You go play some cards with the homies. By the time you're done playing cards for a couple of hours, it's time to go to bed.
Is there anything that you can learn in sobriety doing sober time like that you can't learn outside? Was there maybe like lessons that were more clear to you? Is there anything that you gained?
I think it was all my lessons in that time were clear because I didn't want to go back to prison, and I had dreams, of what I wanted my life to be, and clearly it wasn't going to happen if I was in prison, and I put those dreams into motions, and they don't always go the way we plan, and shit happens or whatever, and but yeah, it's like. It's weird. In hindsight, I did that 5 years, 9 months, and Steve's been down before, and multiple homeboys of mine have been down, and I don't know how, but literally, I was never on a yard where a major riot happened, and I either rolled up to the yard just after it happened, or left the yard just before it happened.
Right.
It was weird. Like. I left Tehachapi and went to Centinela, brand new institution. Every yard, 1, 2, 3, and 4, rocking. Oh, excuse me, A, C, and D were rocking. I was on B yard. 14 months I was there. They were still single selling, and every yard but my yard was rocking and rolling. And at that time, they were shooting you for fistfights. So you could get in a fist fight, and they're hitting you with the Mini 14. You know what I mean?
Odd or God?
Exactly. You know what I mean? And then there was a big, huge shit that jumped off around that time between the cops and the inmate, or the convicts, inmates, whatever, and because of those things, because of them shooting people for fistfights, and I believe that
people ran up in the program.
They ran up in the program office in Calipatria and stabbed like fucking 7 cops or something like that.
Right, that's right.
And that was because they were they were basically putting people in the hole. And then putting you out on the yard, which is probably the size of 4 of these rooms, and then you get in a fist fight, and there's a war going on between the blacks and the Mexicans and the whites.
Right.
So the whites and Mexicans are going at it with the blacks because of some bullshit, and every time you go out to the yard, you got to get into a fight.
Right.
And they're shooting you in a fucking yard that's 4 times the size of this room. You know what I mean? And it's like fucking shooting fish in a barrel.
Right.
And so there was I think there was a hunger strike at that time where everybody just refused to go to chow for I think it was 2 weeks or something like that. And then the press got involved, a bunch of the wives, friends outside and shit like that got involved. And, but it's just weird that I was literally my yard, it was for some reason, there was some containment or respect from from all the races where it just hadn't boiled over yet. Right. And I literally, bless you. I literally left there and got on a bus, went to Ironwood, or excuse me, went to Lancaster. We drove to Lancaster, picked up some dudes, dropped off a couple of dudes. Drove to Wasco, dropped off a couple of dudes, picked up a couple of dudes. We pulled up into Pleasant Valley, in Fresno, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna leave you guys here overnight," and we're like, "Fuck!" I'm like, "What the fuck? What the fuck is that about?" And they don't ever usually do that. Now, what the fuck's going on? And so they leave us there for 9 days in the hole. Nope, we're not classified, no nothing. So we're in the hole. We have no phone calls. You can't talk to anybody. You can write a letter, but by the time it gets there, you're going to be where you're going.
Right.
So 9 days we're in the hole, and come to find out, the place that I was going to, Jamestown 3 Yard, had a fucking riot jump off as I was fucking in transit, and I roll up into a lockdown, and then I do 2.5 years on that yard, and nothing fucking pops.
Wow.
And then Centinela, fucking 2 weeks after I leave, fucking jumps. You know what I mean? And it's rocking and rolling. And I don't know. I just don't know why. You know. But I look back and I'm not saying that God was in my back pocket or whatever, but something was out there.
Could have been worse.
Could have been a lot fucking worse.
So then, did you go in front of the parole board?
No, the only time you go in front of the parole board is if you have a life sentence or something like that.
Right.
So basically, when you get a sentence like mine, you go to classification, and they say, okay, you got 11 years. If you good behavior, this is your release date. If you know what I mean. As of right now, this is your release date. If you start halftime, then it'll change and you'll go to halftime. And so I was able to start my halftime within 30 days of going to Centinela because I stayed there as a PWC, as a permanent worker, and I started my halftime literally within 30 days. So within 60 days of being being arrested, I was in state doing halftime.
Right.
So that's why I was able to do from the time I got arrested 5 years and 9 months.
And so when that release date comes,
then you released.
But in your case, what happened?
In my case, well, I was, like I said, I wound up going to Jamestown was the last place I was at. I did catch 60 days for some female cops were fucking talking to me like a man, talking to me like a dude, and started cussing at me, and I just mouthed off back, and so they got me for disrespecting staff one time, and another time they tried to say that I was inciting a riot because she was in the gun tower and I was telling her to shut the fuck up, and she, fuck you, bitch. You know what I mean? And so she got me for inciting a riot, but I basically lost 30 days because I went to the hole for 30 days, and when I got out, I started my halftime again.
Yeah.
But
that release date came though.
The release date came.
You're sober.
So December 6th of '97, I'm sober. I'm 14 days before my 29th birthday.
Fuck. Who comes to get you?
I take a bus from Jamestown, which is in Sonora, in Sonora, California, to Modesto. And then from there, I took a bus, or they dropped us off in Modesto, in the van. And then from Modesto, I took the Greyhound to Sacramento and jumped on a plane. My mom had paid for a plane ticket to have a plane ticket for me, and I flew home. I actually have a video of me, a VCR, VHS, of me coming off the airplane with my family, meeting me at the airport.
Really?
Airport.
That's great.
And then not only that, but Joker D shows up, and so they're recording me at my mom's house too. So we get back to my mom's house. My mom's got a big old plate of spaghetti. I'm fucking smashing spaghetti.
Yeah.
Mom's, she's got a present for every year that I was locked up.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there fucking opening presents. I'm guessing every present. I'm like, okay, that's some dominoes. You know what I mean? Guessing it all. And then Joker comes walking through the door. He's sober at the time. He wound up living with my mom and paroling to my mom's house at the time for a while. And he was doing real good. He was doing, drum teching for Suicidal at the time, and so I got all of us on video. And then, that night, I went to a meeting. I literally went to a meeting that night. My homegirl Roberta Rodriguez.
Right.
Roberta picked me up, which she's a really good friend of his ex-wife.
Did you share? Did you have a burning desire?
I don't know if I shared that night, but I think I may have shared. I wound up going with D after that meeting to the late night meeting in West Hollywood. And but Roberta and Billy Larson and D and we all just hung out, and started fucking going to meetings every day.
Yeah.
And my homeboy Steve Morris from Morris Construction, give him a little shout out.
Yeah, Steve.
He put me to work. Gave me a job, fucking slinging a hammer. Roberta bought me my fucking tool bags, which I actually still have. I kept them on purpose because she bought me those tool bags when I got out, and I've been able to just hold on to them, And
how did it feel to be out, sober, and have a job?
Well, I mean, it was, I felt blessed, because, I have so many people in my corner, all those people that just knew me before I went in and they were just willing, they were all sober and they were all just there to help out and lend me a hand. And that's what we do, and it felt good, and that, just solidified, everything that I thought I wanted when I was in prison as far as staying sober and getting out and getting a job and trying to, better myself and become willing to just be a man. You know what I mean?
There was a point in my sobriety that I almost went out. It was it was one of those. If this is as good as it gets,
What? Oh, okay.
right? If this is as good as it gets, and this is how good I'm gonna feel.
What was her name?
It wasn't a her. It was.
What was his name?
It wasn't a him. hey, I know we joked around earlier. I'm married. I got a daughter. Ain't no fucking. No, it's cool. So I know I got braids. But the thing is no. But what about what? So it was money and success things, right? In my mind, as an idiot, I was like, I'm doing all the right stuff for a certain period of time. Where's my shit?
Right.
Okay. For you.
And looking back now, what did you learn from that as far as was mine? You know what I mean? What did you learn?
Oh, for me? Well, what I learned was
from that situation, from having that mindset.
Steve knows. I'm just glad you asked. For me, I learned that if I didn't do anything else in this fucking world except stayed sober until I died, it was worth it.
Overpaid.
That's it.
Overpaid.
That I had to come to that realization before I could do any other fucking thing.
Do you feel that having the mindset of where's mine had a play in that also?
Well,
almost like a selfish, like.
Well, it's definitely selfish.
Well, yeah, in that exactly, and that for me, I mean, I don't know if you go to a 12-step program or what, or in your sobriety, but for me, in the 12-step programs that I go to, it's all about service,
right?
And the more you give away, the more I give away.
Yeah.
The more I've ever given of myself freely, without expecting anything in return, the more I've been paid, overpaid. You know what I mean? Whether it be, in my heart,
right,
or what have you. You know what I mean?
I was making deals with whatever God I thought. That's what I was doing. I was like, okay, I get it. Now I've done these things for this long.
Yeah.
Where's my fucking ship?
Yeah.
My ship's supposed to come in, and it wasn't. And internally, I wasn't feeling the relief either. Right. I also learned a hard lesson of it doesn't matter what people think you're doing. If you don't feel better actually inside, it doesn't fucking matter. Who gives a fuck?
And that comes to this. This is a huge. I read this the other day. In the program, it talks about if I'm 100% honest with me and God, that is really not even enough, because the way that the program is designed is to do an inventory, and share with God and another human being, because what sharing with that other human being does is it solidifies that you're being honest with God, because you're being honest with Him. You know what I mean?
Because if you're doing it without the other human being, then you might not be.
Nobody knows what you're doing.
Keeping, you're not keeping check.
Exactly. You're not being checked.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Because you're just listening to yourself lie to God.
Yeah, I'm honest with God. Knows everything that I'm doing, so I'm honest. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's like.
You know what I mean? God knows everything I'm doing. He sees it all.
How many times have you heard that? You're basically sponsoring yourself.
You know what I'm saying? I don't have to come clean to anybody, because I'm already clean with Him. You know what I mean?
I do meditation on my way to bed. As I'm laying in bed, I think about some shit and fall asleep.
Exactly. You know what I mean? So by being honest with another human being, you're truly being honest with God. You know what I mean?
All right.
Because you're voicing it and you're hearing yourself say it too.
I want to ask you a different question, and this has to do with 12-step programs. Have you noticed any change in the culture of the 12-step programs in the 30-some-odd years that you've been in it here in Southern California?
Well, I mean, I've noticed the growth of it, but I mean, prior to COVID, I mean, it's been huge. Prior to COVID, there was fucking over 3,000 AA meetings in Los Angeles County alone.
Right.
And that's just AA. That's not counting Narcotics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous,
Nicotine Anonymous.
whatever. You know what I mean?
Fuck.
So And then, you know, what I've had to do, you know, like I mentioned, you know, there's you know, trauma that I've dealt with as a kid that, you know, we tell ourselves stories of why things happen or and stuff like that. Why I did something or whatever, and those stories become who we are as people. And no matter what it is, you know, some of my truth is that, you know, when I was 13, I was molested. And I told myself, you know, basically I was seduced. I wasn't like raped. I wasn't traumatized by it.
Groomed.
I was yes. 100, but this is also in fucking, you know, 1981, 82, whatever it was.
Right.
And
Nobody knew. Nobody was talking about that shit back then.
No. It was fucking, they were preying on fucking latchkey kids like me, you know what I mean? And there's motherfuckers, I can't fucking, anyway. So, so this happens, and I tell myself, it happens, okay? Happens probably for like 2 or 3 years, maybe. It goes on. This guy picks me and a buddy of mine up. He takes us out, buys us clothes, shoes, gets us high, whatever the fuck. Drinks, whatever. We go to this, he had this fucking house. We would go, we bring girls over there, whatever. We party, fucking naked in a jacuzzi, whatever. They didn't give a fuck. They just wanted to fucking have naked boys around them, you know what I mean?
Right.
Fast forward into my adulthood after it all stops, and I'm telling myself, because I didn't feel like I was molested, and I didn't classify it as a molestation,
right.
I tell myself, oh, that's just my first sexual experience. But I guarantee you, if that happened to my son, I'd be in fucking prison forever. You know what I mean?
Man, I thought
that would be a molestation. You know what I mean? In my eyes, he would be that guy who's molesting my son. So why is it not the same to me? Why was I not? And so I came to this with the help of my therapist, and that's where I came to the conclusion and the understanding that I needed to, that throughout my life, the person that I became in my teenage years, doing all the running and gunning and beating motherfuckers up and getting in fist fights and all this shit and proving that I had to do something and be in control of every situation, was because in that situation I wasn't in control.
Right.
And I was taking back my control by doing the shit that I was doing.
Right.
And so, because as much as I felt that I could have said no to that guy, I really couldn't have.
Man, you nailed it on the head, bro.
You know?
Because I mean, myself, friends, a lot of different people. For somebody else, like you said, like my daughter, right? She's 3 years old, right? It's a different thing if it happens to her. Happens to me.
Yeah.
I could have said no, or I wasn't really tricked, or whatever the fuck.
I wasn't, forced. I wasn't, I wasn't
under someone's power.
Right. I wasn't being forced. And that's the thing. And so that's why I told myself that story. And we tell ourselves these stories. Excuse me. We tell ourselves these stories in these situations as a defense mechanism.
Totally.
You know what I mean? So that to protect ourselves from ridicule, shame. My therapist is one of his. I'm going to give him a shout out, Dr. Jaffe. He's a fucking amazing. His mantra is "fuck shame," and he has. And if I can again, I'm going to give him a shout out to his organization called Ignited. He has an organization called Ignited and a program called Ignited for recovery and trauma and stuff like that. And his thing is "fuck shame," because 99% of the things that I ever drank and used drugs behind was because of either shame or fear or whatever, you know what I mean? Fear and shame are there, and that's it, he was able to open some doors for me and have some conversations with me where I was able to look and be open and minded and willing to say, you know what? Yeah, you're right, what he does is the way trauma and triggers happen or work is a trigger is based on a situation that happens, whether it be trauma or what have you. And it could be the smell of a drug. Right. It could be the smell of a woman. It could be a fucking a landmark or whatever. You're driving somewhere and you go by a landmark or you smell something and it can trigger you to go fucking use drugs. And you
like
don't know why. You don't know why the fuck you don't know why you chose to go to that bar and pick that fucking drink up or whatever the case may be. And his thing is, when you talk about the triggers or the trauma, you're recreating the story. So you're telling yourself a new story. So the next time that story comes up or that trigger comes up, you don't think about the past trigger. You think about the conversation that we just had.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so that changes the outcome of your trigger. And the more you talk about it, the more it takes the power of that trigger away, and you change the whole story of who you are and what you've gone through.
You know, I'm in analysis too, and I just share with Big Lux and Old Blue Eyes, you know, that I was feeling like, oh man, you know, there's no place for me. I'm not being heard. And then both Old Blue Eyes and Big Lux were saying like, yeah, but you've accomplished, you've done all these things. Like, when is it going to be enough? And I went back to the therapist, the analyst, and I told her exactly that conversation. And she said that those are outside things. She's like, those are external things. And you're in here to try to, she's like, you got as far as you can go without dealing with the internal things. Mm-hmm. And so she was saying that, yeah, it's true, these things, but until you can
dig deep,
and bro, I mean, how many layers of things are there?
Well, it's never ending. You know, my you know, in my relationship with my wife, you know, that's one of the things that we are dealing with. We're in a couples group that we do with my therapist online. It's a Zoom thing, but there's like nine couples and my therapist and his wife that you know, we get on there, and it's literally like my wife and I, and when it's our turn to share, I share on whatever's going on with me, whether it's an argument we were talking about, whatever the fuck it is, I share what's going on with me. And she can't fucking comment on it. She can't say anything about it.
Old Blue Eyes just started smiling real big.
She can't comment on it. And even when it's her turn to, and it's like, and I don't talk about, her.
Right.
I talk about what's going on with me and what I can do and what I need to do. I don't reference her.
Right.
And then when it comes to her time to share, she talks about what's going on with her and what she needs to do and what she
you can't
can do
say
to
anything.
Change. And I can't say anything. Exactly.
You got to hear somebody always out.
But at the same time, she doesn't talk about the same comment or the same topic, really. You know what I mean?
It's not a response to what you just shared.
No cross-talking.
Exactly. No cross-talking. Exactly.
She can't. You can't.
No. She'll get jammed. She'll get snatched up, or I'll get snatched up if I do. And my therapist will be like, you know what I mean? You need to not do that. And honestly, dude, it's fucking huge, you know, because we get our shit out. You know what I mean? We get our shit out on the table. You know what I mean?
You have to drop that guy's number and card off, because the next group you go on.
Yeah, Dr. Jaffe.
Well, it's
gonna have to talk to Dr. Blue Eyes.
He may start another one, but it's a closed group
right.
that we do with the therapist. He's a therapist. You know what I mean? It's what he fucking does, and him and his wife, and you know, we all basically for a year. It's a year. It's basically a year commitment that we pay to fucking do it, you know what I mean? And we go on there, and we paid for the whole year, and we go on there every 2 weeks on a Sunday night, and we do the deal, you know. And then we also, me and my wife, go to another 12-step program that is a couples in recovery. That is just if it's like basically the only requirement is that one person is in a 12-step program outside of it, and then the spouse can be in it.
Let me ask you this. Let me back up and unpack something a little bit more with you. And I want to, you know, in committing, you know, you were sober, but you were committing crimes. You're doing your different thing, right? What whether it be the moment you got arrested or in prison or when you got out, but you know, what had to change? And you hear the term, you don't have to change much, just everything. You know? And has that been the process for you?
Just answer the question, dog.
Yeah. Has that been the process? Yeah, go ahead. Get it.
Yeah. That's it. You know what I mean? I had to change my whole attitude and outlook on what I was doing. It's like I clearly couldn't go back to doing what I was doing. You know what I mean? And I couldn't, you know, I had to fucking look at everything that I was doing before I went to prison and say, okay, what do I need to do differently? And it was everything. I needed to fucking show up and go to work.
Right.
I needed to show up and go to fucking work. I needed to work a fucking program. I needed to give away my program, you know what I mean, by being of service, whether it be having commitments or sponsoring people or what have you. And, you know, so yeah, I had to change it all, you know. And that in itself is the psychic change. that AA and people talk about, the spiritual experience of the psychic change, is you're changing your whole psyche.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're going from becoming a liar, cheat, and a thief to being honest, open-minded, and willing. And by doing that, by being honest, open-minded, and willing, you're having the psychic change. You change from being a fucking liar, cheat, and a thief to a fucking honest person.
So, at what point in your time, because like sometimes they'll tell people like, you know, don't kill yourself in the first 5 years, you're killing the wrong person. At what point in time did you start to sense that like, holy shit, I'm starting to get my mind back or me back?
2 years, 4 years ago when I got 30, almost 36 years. My head didn't pop out of my ass probably until 20 years. You know what I mean?
Right.
I met my wife. We just celebrated this month on October 6th, 6 years. Excuse me, 4 years of being together. 4 years of marriage, and we've been together 6 years.
Congratulations.
June 3rd is 6 years that we've been together, and
salute.
And thank you. And I honestly accredit all the growth that I've had in the last 6 years to my wife.
Right.
For being the force that puts me in a position to look at and level up and say, okay, am I going to fucking run from this relationship? Because if I wouldn't have chose to do the things that she presented to me, which she introduced me to my therapist, if I wouldn't have chose to do this, I would have worked with my tools that I have, and I would have ran. I would have been out.
Right.
I'd have gotten in an argument with her or whatever. If I wasn't willing to talk about the fucking bullshit that I went through, I would have been like, I'm out. Peace out. I'm gone. See ya. And to be honest, I've said that a couple of times in our relationship.
Sure.
And the guiding arrow is, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to be this fucking miserable? Am I going to be this miserable for the rest of my life and not fucking talk about this shit and not work on this shit?
Right.
With this woman that I love, that I fucking, you know, am dedicated to, but yet I'm fucking willing to burn rubber at the drop of a hat because I don't want.
How do you stay in control?
Well, you're not in control.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. I needed to step away from being in control of it and saying, okay, you know what? I need to commit to this relationship no matter what.
Yeah.
Like I did to my program.
Exactly.
And no matter what goes down, I'm not going to run, and we're going to fucking work it out. We got in a fucking argument today on the fucking phone over some stupid ass shit. She said I had a tone in my voice, which I probably fucking did.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm like,
that's called leadership.
You know, and I'm like, you know, so we wound up getting in a fight, and you know, a little argument, not a fight, but an argument. And you know, and I'm like, fuck it, all right, well, you know, go have, you know, and then I send her a fucking message, you know, I love you, you know what I mean?
Right.
That's it. Not fucking staying in the poison of the argument, you know?
Fuck, bro.
Stepping away from that bullshit, you know?
My wife, we've been married now 5 years. She's an attorney, I'm an attorney, and we work together.
How do those debates go on?
You know what? She's the first woman that I've ever really been honest with about being pissed at her. Like, I usually am, you know.
My wife is the first person in my life that has ever known everything about me.
Right.
There's never been one person that's ever known everything about me.
Previous incarnations of relationships that I've had is me maintaining and controlling my communication and my emotions so that they don't.
By doing that, you're lying.
Exactly.
And that's where I was at for so long, is my wife would ask me questions, and I'd tell myself, oh, well, she doesn't need to know that.
Right.
She doesn't know that girl, whatever. So I'm fucking controlling her reality by fucking not telling her the truth. And that's where a lot of our arguments wound up coming up. And so we would get in fucking fights over that shit. I'll be like, what are you talking about? I'm not lying. I just didn't tell you that happened.
Right.
And so now what we have through my therapist, another one of his huge mantras that fucking helps us is complete 100% transparency in everything that I do in my life today with my wife.
Yeah.
Transparency with her and 100% honesty. Because if I'm not, then it's like, what the fuck is it even worth? You know what I mean?
Wait, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
Exactly.
So that's why. And it's not easy.
Man, I got a long long way to go for that.
Listen,
partner.
this guy one right here,
episode 2,
Dr.
dog.
Jaffe. Yeah, Dr. Jaffe, Dr. Jaffe.
Dude, homie's a fucking miracle worker. I love him. Him and his wife Sophie.
Damn, brother. Hey,
They're the shit.
I
dude.
love this guy. Breath of fresh air.
He's on Instagram. Ignited is on Instagram.
the guy turned his whole life around. And high power.
Huh.
Oh,
Where do
my
people
business.
find you for high power? Come
High
on,
power pressure washing is my business. It's on Instagram. It's on Facebook, and my phone numbers. If you Google my name or high power pressure washing, it's gonna pull up my cell phone number and
Yep.
call me out.
Get out there. You own a business, you own a
Clean
restaurant,
shit.
you own whatever, man.
Restaurants, I clean
He'll
restaurant
yeah,
kitchens,
he does it
I
all,
clean
man.
Houses, buildings, houses, fucking whatever.
All of it.
Man,
He's
I feel-
solid, bro.
Dude, I cleaned the fucking transfer station at the fucking waste management today. The fucking
How was
scale.
that?
The scale.
So
they're,
what-
They're huge scale that the trucks weigh on.
Yeah.
Dude, you want to see the fucking video of that
Yeah.
shit, dude? Check
What
this
kind of
one.
weird shit comes off of that?
Well, this is just fucking dirt, but yeah, fucking gnarly, dude. Check this shit out. That's my kid. Homecoming tonight.
Hey.
Homecoming tonight.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Damn.
That's what I'm talking about.
Showing up and suited up.
Yeah.
This is so that's before
Okay.
scale. How fucking dirty that shit is.
That's disgusting.
Watch this.
It looks like
End
skid
result.
marks.
The video of afterwards.
You could eat off that. I would eat off. Look at how clean that is. High power what?
Pressure washing.
Pressure
High power
washing.
pressure washing. You want to stop fucking around. You want all that detritus and human filth out of your fucking business? Call this guy up.
Call him up.
Call him up.
Man, creep.
Yeah.
Good
But look
job.
at the
Hey,
look at
brother.
the contrast of that. The picture.
Yeah. Solid work.
This is one passionate motherfucker
Yeah,
right
he
here.
is.
He doesn't give a fuck. He's like, look at that. That shit's gone.
Yeah.
I love it.
Hey, man.
Steve,
We're going to keep on
thank you
trudging,
for having
brother.
me out, brother. I appreciate
bro,
you
we're gonna
guys,
keep
man.
on trudging.
Hey.
Hey, wait, this guy's good for like just any type of
Sit in.
relationship, marital relationship
God.
advice.
Fuck.
We're going to have you come back on,
Yeah,
brother.
organic juice.
It's
Organic
all-
juice
hey,
by
The Juice.
Juice
The
LA.
relationship advice comes from Dr. Jaffe.
All right.
That's regurgitated.
Right.
The Juice LA.
Bring on Dr. Jaffe.
All right, big shout out.
Let's have
Thank
an
you for the
intervention
juices.
for old blue eyes with Dr. Jaffe.
Yeah. He needs a lot of help. He needs help, bro.
Well, it's not just the thing about that was the thing. It's like my wife could have went and did her own thing and got help from him, but we both had to be willing to do it. You know, or else
Right.
it doesn't
Hey,
work.
It
gotta
takes
both
two.
be willing to do it.
It takes two.
All right,
baby.
brother. Sean, what you got?
Sean at movemental.media for all your audio and podcasting needs.
Yeah.
All right. And listen, Ovando Bone LLP, we wear braids to court, let the tomahawks fly, the best legal representation that money can buy. So if you go to Dr. Jaffe and you still can't work it out with your old lady and you're hitting the skids, hire me,
Yeah.
right? I'll make sure that you'll have custody rights and
Oh,
money
shit.
rights. Let's go.
Let's
go.
Big shout out to Jack for coming in tonight, man.
Yeah.
High power. Go look him up,
A
man.
gentleman and a scholar, this one.
Don't say
And,
that too loud. But not a gentleman.
The Juice
Listen,
LA.
The Juice.
Fabulous Juice.
Yes,
Listen.
ma'am.
Hey, if you don't know,
Oh,
Vibes. Got Cubanos here tonight because Vibes sponsors us. So that's at Vibes Papers. Big shout out to Burner,
Yeah.
Cookies family,
yep,
at Cookies SF.
yep.
Check them out. Big shout out to Esteban Oriol and the Soul Assassins. Calco. Love you,
Calco.
Calco. Thank you for everything,
Captain
man. Pulpo
Calco.
beard oil. Pulpo beard oil. Calco, my man. Thank you, brother. And www.supermaxhardware.com. Go check us out. Pick
Yeah,
up some gear.
yeah.
Saw my man wearing one of my shirts.
You might
And,
get to look as handsome as Creeper over
That's
here.
right.
All right.
Hey, always listen to the Hard Luck Show Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We're out of here.
Peace.
West Side.
Yeah.
Dogface. Hey, Dogface. Ooh. Ooh. I'm like, shit, it's like Twilight Zone. I might go in and might not come out, so you know.